Kalei works for Missing Child Center, Hawaii.
Thank you, Dennis. Well, aloha, everyone. U.S. Attorney Claire Connors, Prosecuting Attorney Stephen Alm, distinguished speakers and guests, thank you for having me here today. National Crime Victims' Rights Week is a time to reflect, to learn, connect, and grow. A time to help crime survivors find their justice. Victims of crime have experienced trauma, violence, loss, and fear. The physical, emotional, and psychological toll as a result takes years of healing, a plethora of resources, and continued lifelong support. I stand before you today completely humbled and truly grateful. It's been 12 years since I was freed from a life of sex trafficking. Born and raised on the island of Oahu, I never would have imagined having experienced everything that I was able to overcome. It all started when I met a man in the nightclub. He learned everything about me and my loved ones. Within 2 weeks of dating, finding out where I lived, where I worked, where my daughter went to school, he then used that to threaten to take my life and the loved ones that I cared for. He also said if I told law enforcement, he would kill me. Being raped and abused became common in my life. 2 years of fighting to get away from the trafficker was the worst nightmare you could ever imagine. There was a time I was fighting for my life in the ICU for 2 months. Doctors saying I wouldn't have much time to live, telling my family members to say your goodbyes. My body was shutting down due to the violence and physical abuse I endured day in and day out. I was 27 years old. My heart was slowing down, my kidneys were failing, all my vital organs were shutting down. It was nothing but a miracle that suddenly turned that situation around to provide strength and breathe life into me once again. Having survived a life of sex trafficking entails being a victim of many crimes. It wasn't until 2010 where I returned to Hawaii from Miami, Florida, where the pimp took myself and 2 other females. At the time there was a tip placed. Miami police were able to recover me and the 2 other females and arrest the pimp. Thereafter, I returned to Hawaii, but I didn't know where to start, who to turn to, who to trust, to try to figure out how to rebuild my life and get back to a place of normalcy. At that time, there were no resources available for me. I relied on faith, hope, and love to pull me through, to help me find justice one step at a time. It was my church community, my family, my friends, who all had no knowledge of human trafficking, but they saw me, a human being that needed help. It is an unexplainable feeling when you are dehumanized, when you are not seen, heard, and you often feel forgotten. In order to help crime survivors find their justice, we must first have to have an understanding of what that means. The word justice tends to take shape and form with situational attitudes of those who are affected. For instance, one may have a basic understanding of the word justice, but they've never been a crime victim. If they do become a victim, justice becomes more personal. The rules, terms, and conditions change. The true meaning of justice is the quality of being just, to make it right, righteousness, equitableness, and moral rightness. Part of understanding justice to a degree is knowing what it means to an individual, a court, or a victim who no longer has a voice. For me, justice began from the inside out. To experience true freedom, I first needed to start my healing process. The first step was with acknowledgement, confronting those things that were painful to revisit and to think about. What you tolerate, you authorize to stay. And I didn't want to tolerate the torment, the arguments in my mind. I didn't want to rehearse and replay the torturous memories of pain from my past any longer. My next step was to work on forgiveness. It's not an easy thing to do. And for those who have lost loved ones due to crime, it may be a lifelong process, if ever, to come to those terms. For me, I had to make it right from within, to experience peace and to find strength to move forward. Justice in my situation was also served in the legal system when the federal judge convicted and sentenced the trafficker to 22 years in federal prison. Now, as a survivor leader, it is important to me to be a part of a solution, to be the change, to shine the light in dark places, to speak and talk about uncomfortable issues, but most importantly, to carry on the legacy of victims of all crime. I was able to rise because of other people who lifted me up. In return, I now do the same. My current role with the Department of the Attorney General, the Missing Child Center, I have the incredible honor of working with law enforcement to locate missing and exploited children. It is through my work I am able to continue to live a life free with passion. I am compelled to persevere no matter how big the barriers may get, because I truly know someone is waiting. This is a time to help crime survivors find their justice. As we continue to do the work, as we continue to come together as government agencies, service providers, victim advocates, we are continuing to build a stronger community. As we focus on lifting others, together we will rise. Thank you.
Kalei, thank you very much. Sorry about the introduction. How important it is that we look at the support of family, faith community, the community at large in supporting survivors. Not just, our organizations, the formal organizations that help. The people who are with the victim and survivor day after day, who see them in church, see them at the store, see them anywhere in the community, they need to know that that support is there, because the journey from victim to survivor is a long one, and it doesn't go well. It's difficult without that kind of support. Thank you so much again.